David De Gea's name added to the long list of injuries that have been picked up on international duty. Gab, we were talking about this yesterday in the wake of Neymar picking up that injury playing in Singapore for Brazil. Given that PSG pay him after tax $3 million a year, are we coming to a point where clubs are going to take him to court or protest or refuse to let their players go on international matches? Because at the end of the day, they're their property, aren't they?
I think actually you mean $30 million a year after tax, not
$3 million a month,
year.
I think I meant as well.
That would be a real bargain. Look, it's an ongoing club versus country thing, and because I think the issue is more the fact that, once they go off with the national teams, they're evaluated by national team doctors. It's really important that they share information between them, but there's an issue of trust there, and a lot of times with doctors, things are in shades of gray and not really black and white. That said, national teams could also reply, well, hey, guess what? These guys are insured. We pay very, very big premiums so that we're able to use them in international games. You guys know that we pay big premiums. And equally, in many cases, we provide a showcase, maybe not in Neymar's case, but we provide a showcase and a platform that makes your players more valuable because they play on the international stage. So there's a lot of give and take there.
Should they change this format, Gab? Should they change this whole international break thing? Because the general consensus seems to be, well, it's always been this way.
Well, the FIFA Stakeholder Committee is looking at working with the international calendar. They're looking at, how we have 3 international breaks in the fall. Maybe we have 2 of them, but have them be longer. That there's been talk in the past of just ending the season early, maybe in late April, and having an international season to be played in May and June when you would play all your internationals. Problem with that is that in certain parts of the world, it's the rainy season. It's difficult to fit everything in. There's logistical issues. I think this is gonna run and run, and the clubs are talking to each other. But I think the one thing to always bear in mind is that in this is that you have 10 or 12 very, very rich and wealthy clubs, but then you've got many, many more clubs and many, many more countries around the world. And because it still comes down to numbers and democratic votes, I don't think the big clubs are going to get their way on this. The best you can do is negotiate and compromise and come up with something better.
I think we're trying to reinvent the wheel here, in some sense, because it's just. And you talk about the money, but it's all relative, really, because back in the days when players were not paid a lot, clubs didn't earn a lot, and it was still a blow for them to miss. If you go back to the 60s and 70s, somebody earning a pittance compared to today, it was still big money back then. So it's part and parcel. I know it's a bugbear because at international level, my manager was always panicking about any player. Mind you, he was a bit of a one-off, I must admit. But he was panic at certain players getting injured because he'd have to make a phone call to that club manager and he'd get a roasting for it, So there is a pressure there, but it's part and parcel of international football.
It's never going to change. It doesn't matter how you change it. Unless you get rid of international games, players are always going to get injured. Different time zones, eating differently, training for longer. I mean, everything changes when you go with your international team. And a lot of the time, that's why players get injured. So unless you completely get rid of it, it's never going to change.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.